25 years of independent and fearless journalism. Hello, and thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We're coming to you live from our studio in Kukumlimle on digital address GA09925339. Our top stories this hour. Ghana's official case count yet to be updated on the website, but this afternoon, one more person has died in the Upper East region as the number of cases there rises to 8. We are live for the update from there, as here in Accra, President Akufo-Addo is set to cut sword for the start of a 100-bed facility as part of our coronavirus response. And Parliament is heavy with information you should have as the House approves nomination of Deputy Health Minister Dr. Okuboy, and MPs deny claims by U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission they received bribes to facilitate a power deal. We're live in Parliament as we also hear from Gender Minister on politicization of food being distributed in the wake of coronavirus and lockdown. And also coming up, more than 2 million cases of coronavirus recorded worldwide, killing almost 150,000 people. We're live in Kenya and Germany for update on the situation there. Join us on DSTV 421, GoTV 144, and of course on YouTube because we stream live there. You can also join us with your thoughts, opinions, questions on 0540-109009. My name is Gifty Andwapia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. Welcome to the details of those stories and more. Now, officially and on our website, Ghana's case count remains 641 in the last 48 hours. We're waiting for the Ghana Health Service to update the figures following confirmation of new positive cases in some parts of the country. I'm going to take you to the Upper East region, which has recorded 8 cases so far and 1 more death. Correspondent Albert Sori joins me via Skype with details of what is happening there. Albert, it's good to have you. Now, tell us, how do we have this information about the number of persons that have died and about the other cases that have been recorded in the Upper East region? Hello, Albert. Well, you saw Albert there with me right there on Skype. It seems he cannot hear me, but like I said, we're waiting on the Ghana Health Service website to update the details they have there. As it stands now, the case count is 641, but we're learning this afternoon 1 more person has died, which, if added to the statistics that we have already, makes it 9 in all in terms of those who have died. We also know that the cases recorded in the Upper East region has now risen to 8. In the meantime, the Upper West region, the police has apprehended a 46-year-old Nigerian who absconded after he tested positive for COVID-19 and was asked to go home to self-isolate. Police Commander DCOP Francis Abuajenyako says he was arrested at his hideout somewhere around Wa Polytechnic.
Good afternoon.
There's no Polytechnic.
Thank you for the privilege. As I promised yesterday, that we will painstakingly look for the patient. Yesterday, we were able to send messages all around. We asked our patrol teams, snap checks, to be on the lookout for that person. So yesterday around 10 p.m., an informant called me and said he will assist us locating. So this morning, the informant did a very good job, and he really assisted the police to locate the patient.
How was he arrested?
As I said, an informant assisted us to arrest him. It is held out around Wa Poly area.
Was he in his home or at a different place?
He was at a different place. He has relocated from his home and he was with some friends around those areas.
I can see that he was not the only person who was taken to the isolation ward.
Yeah, currently because of what those in medicine, they've told us that if people come into contact, they should be able to also assemble them and also be quarantined. So we had information that he had contact with some persons. So currently two females and 5 males have been apprehended, as I may put it. And they are currently with the regional health directorate, and they are going through the process.
You have spoken to him. Why did he run away?
I don't know his intentions, but I believe that, I believe that maybe he was afraid or something. So I don't know his intentions, why he ran away. But what he did was very bad because he has caused fear and panic in the community. And as of now, I believe that the community are happy because we have located him and we have been able to even gotten those he came into contact with. So now the community is happy, and I believe the police should be tapped at their back because we've done a good job with the able leadership of our indefatigable regional minister and the regional health director.
Let's get on the line now. I do have my colleague Rafiq Salam, who covered that story for us, to give us more. Hello, Rafiq.
Hello, Gifty.
What is the situation at the moment?
The situation in the Upper West region, even regarding the one municipality, is calm. The people are really happy that finally the 46-year-old Nigerian who escaped self-quarantine has been arrested. So according to the Upper West Police Command, they told us that they had a tip of around 10 p.m. and from an informant, and then due to the words of the informant, they were able to apprehend this 46-year-old Nigerian who is on the run. So he was arrested. He was taken to the Upper West Regional Hospital alongside 7 other people, 2 women, and then 5 men. They are the people that he was staying in the compound house located around the Wapoli area, and that was where he was apprehended.
Did the police, so the informant who gave them the information, do you have a way of getting information from him as to how he managed to pull this off?
When the incident happened, even looking at the interview that we conducted yesterday with the Upper West Regional Police Command, DCP Pankapani, I made mention that the situation triggered them to form a search party, launch a search party to arrest this victim, this patient of the COVID-19. And so they have informed the barriers, they have informed several of their units about what is really happening. And so the police are open, and so people really are willing to give us information. I told you that why it's a small place, and everybody knows the other. And so it's because of some of these things that a responsible citizen, or should I say a right-thinking person, gave this information to the police, and the police acted swiftly on it, and he was arrested this morning.
Well, applause to all those who have helped to bring this gentleman down. I mean, 7 people have been in contact. Who knows how many more people he would have been in contact with. Rafiq, thank you for that update. Rafiq Salam joined me from the Upper West region in Wa, where he reports. You can join us with your thoughts. Like I said, our number is 0540 109009. That's 0540 109009. What do you think? I mean, responsible citizens as we are, these are some of the things that we should do, helping the police to get in touch with people like that. In the meantime, that one person who bolted in the northern region is still on the round. Well, the 5 other people that were staying in the compound house where this Nigerian was arrested have been taken into quarantine at the Upper West Regional Hospital. The Regional Health Director, Dr. Osaikufo Afre, has been speaking about some challenges they're facing with all these.
Obviously, yes. We are using one of our main wards for this purpose, and that ward carries no more than 10 beds. So we have some people who are suspected cases, which we are waiting for their samples, the tests to come, the results to come, so that we will know what steps to take. We have also some confirmed cases over there. So just as people are suspected and we don't want them to go back home, it's also depleting our space. So if the trend continues like this, that means we will need to collapse a bit more wards to use for this particular purpose.
Thank you very much, sir.
So from the upper west, I should say, let's head to the upper east, where, like I indicated earlier, they've recorded now 8 cases. 1 person has died. Correspondent Albert Sori is on Skype. Hello, Albert.
Hello, Gift.
What more do we know about these cases?
Right, so these new cases, the information came out this morning that we've recorded 4 more cases. Remember that the Upper East region, we recorded our first case on the 3rd of April, which involved a woman. Now, following contact tracing of that woman, 3 more cases were recorded on the 11th of April. And as of yesterday, information was that we've recorded 4 more cases. Now, the information we have is that these 4 cases include a woman who we are told has died. She, from the information that we have, just to read it for you, she's a non-diabetic from what we are told, and so she died shortly after her sample was taken before the doctor, her case was out this morning. Now, the Upper East Regional Health Directorate is this information this morning. So our case count now in the Upper East region is 8 cases. This means that we have 4 new cases, and they've also done a breakdown of the cases. Out of the 8, 4 of them are now male and 4 are also female. Now, this woman who has passed on, we are told that she didn't have any contact with anyone prior to her case as far as the investigations are concerned. But the 3 other people who are included are still, contact cases of the first case that was reported on the 3rd.
All right. So I'm seeing here also from the statement that you got, we're getting from the health authorities there, that the 3 of the new cases had contacts with the first case. Now, the first case was the pregnant woman who went to the Bogatanga hospital.
Exactly.
3, do we know who these 3 cases are? Are they health professionals who worked with her or who treated this woman, or are they random people in society?
Yes, so if you go down the statement that the Health Directorate has released, they are saying that 2 of the new cases are healthcare workers, and that is all the information they've given. They haven't stated where these health workers are, but then they've made it clear that the 2 of the new cases are healthcare workers. What they've also said is that out of the 8 cases, 7 of them are now people who are from within the Bolgatanga municipality, and the other one, she's the woman that has now died, is from the Boku municipality.
Very interesting details there. We're also seeing here again that they've deployed contact tracers to do the mapping. Do we have any further information on that?
Yeah, so one of the difficult things with this COVID-19 cases in the Upper East region is actually getting the healthcare authorities to comment on the cases. For instance, I got this statement earlier today, but just getting the health director or an authority from the health directorate to give details has been very difficult, mainly because they want to try and manage the information as much as possible so that you don't have misinformation circulating in the public. And so eventually I got the Regional Health Promotion Officer to confirm that this statement actually came from the Health Directorate. But as far as getting someone within the health authority to give more details on these cases is concerned, it's been very, very difficult. Apart from the statement, there hasn't been any engagement with the press to give further details. And in fact, that is causing some sort of frustration for most journalists in the region, because for some reason, information is not very forthcoming. And if you don't make so much effort, you get very little information.
Certainly understand that. We're also getting the information they put out, at least the ones what we have to work with, is also that one of the cases says out of the 4 new cases, 2 are currently being prepared for admission, but 1 was translocated by air to Accra for care. Well, yes. Do we know why this had to be done?
Yeah, so when I read the statement the first time, my immediate reaction was to try and get the health authority to tell us if maybe this person was in a critical condition or why they needed to transport him to Accra. But again, we haven't had any information on this yet. I'm getting the sense that this person may have been in some sort of critical condition, and that is why they had to transport him. But we still need the health authorities, the regional health directorates, to actually confirm this information for us. But again, we are going to have to wait for some time before they come forward with it. But one thing, again, Gifty, that is raising some concerns among the people of the Upper East region is that since we started recording cases, sometimes some of the information, in fact, there was a case where laboratory results of some of the patients who were tested were circulating on social media. And, you know, we had people complaining about this. We needed to get the health directorate to speak on it as well. They didn't say much on it. They didn't even know if the leak came from them or someone else leaked this information. Again, yesterday, there were some, messages circulating on social media with details of the name of this woman and the statements purported to be coming from the Boku hospital. Now, a lot of people think that these are confidential information that shouldn't be circulating on the media, but it seems to be happening. And so it's causing a bit of apprehension amongst people in the region, because for some reason, the health directorate is not speaking much on these cases. All they do is release a statement, and then it creates a problem where people have to speculate for themselves.
Albert, thank you for that update there. We'll certainly be getting back to you, and hopefully there'll be a press conference or so here in Accra where we'll get better and further particulars. But speaking of statements, as Albert said, the one that was released following what happened in the Upper East also talks about challenges, significant challenges with PPEs that health officials they are facing, and it lists them. It lists the challenges. It says inadequate PPEs, no funding for risk communication and community engagement activities, shortage of swab sticks and viral culture media for sample collection, increased turnaround time in KCCR due to lack of a testing facility in the region that's in the upper East region, because they'll have to take all their samples to Kumasi since there's no capacity to test there. Sample transport to KCCR too expensive for regional health directorate. Vehicle goes to Kumasi almost every other day. And media interference with case numbers reporting. Well, we report what is given us, for example, what we have in this particular statement. So these are some of the challenges that have been listed there by the authorities, health authorities. They're dealing with this situation, and they also have way forward as well. We'll be following up on authorities so we can hear from them really what the situation is and what they're doing about it, especially when it comes to PPEs and swab sticks as they're complaining about it. Let me bring you back here to the capital. The Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research says it is now testing up to 3,000 samples each day as the country intensifies its enhanced surveillance and contact tracing. More than 50,000 samples were told have already been tested, with 641 testing positive for COVID-19. Director of the Institute, Professor Kwabena Annan, has been speaking to us on the sidelines of a donation of 120,000 cedis by Zoom Lion to help resource the center. He said Noguchi is currently working with other research facilities to further increase the country's testing capacity.
As at now, we have situations where in a day we are testing 2,000 to 3,000 samples a day. And this is far even beyond what we said Noguchi will do earlier times. We've been able to do this because we have mobilized, because this institute has resources in terms of human capacity, scientific capacity, and also infrastructural capacity. Because in recent times we had a very special donation from grant aid from Japan, the Advanced Research Laboratories, and this has provided strategic advantage not just to the institute or to the university and to the country, but to the world generally, to West Africa and the world. So as far as testing is concerned, things are under control. There are still samples to be tested, but we are moving on. And so far it is okay. But of course we need to continue to bring on board other partners to do testing. And the signs are positive, because the Volta River Authority, for example, their health directorate, have contacted us that they would want to also join the testing, capacity. And we are already starting to talk to them and interact with them to set up also testing at the VRA and Uracare laboratories and things like that. So the future is quite positive.
And tell us about the delivery of the samples that are taken on the field. And now we understand that there's an addition to your the way you receive the samples. Services. Tell us about that.
As far as delivery of samples to Noguchi is concerned, we have been receiving samples daily. Usually late afternoon from about 3:30, 4, all the way to early night, so let's say about 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Vehicles are coming in and delivering samples. And these are coming from different parts of the country. And again, I should say that the government of Ghana has taken another very strategic decision. We know already that the government has previously introduced the drone services, which has been something positive for difficult to reach areas as far as health supplies are concerned. Unfortunately now, the drone services, government is planning for drones to come to Noguchi and deliver samples. And we believe that it's another very positive step forward.
You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty Andropia, coming to you live from our studios here in Koko Mlimble. We're talking about coronavirus, and I've been asking you to share with me your thoughts. I'm going to take a quick break, but before I go, let's see some of the messages that you sent through to us right now. And please do not call the phone, the line is just for WhatsApps. Okay, so let's see. Right, this one says, good afternoon, Gifty. I've seen you're doing good. Please help me with this. Apart from the 5,517 people tested so far, I'm seeing again from the headline that Ghana is clearing about 12,000 backlog COVID test sample. Is there any more apart from this? I'm not sure if this is, but certainly we'll be able to get some responses from the Ministry for Information on their next, hopefully, press conference. This one says, I can't understand the reasoning behind the decision by the COVID-19 testing in the Upper West to ask a positive person to go and self-quarantine. Any spread of the virus in the region should be blamed on them for such a lackadaisical attitude. From Emmanuel. Emmanuel is sending that message from Peki. Emmanuel, thanks for your message. So it says, kudos to the Upper West Regional Police and informants who alerted the police. The reason why Northern Region Police and health authorities cannot account for whereabouts of the absconded patients is that we, the people of Tamale, think the COVID-19 issues here is cooked. I don't know why you think it is cooked, but thanks for sharing your opinion. Let me take the final one. This one says, hello, I am a nurse at Ahmadiyya Hospital in Kaleo, Upper West. This hospital is known in the area for its impact on the people, but we lack PPEs in this fight against COVID-19. Please, through your reputable medium, I am pleading on stakeholders and anyone that has the hospital at heart to come to our aid. And we'll be talking more also about PPEs. That's like the major issue right now, standing in the way of our response to coronavirus on Frontline. I'll take a very quick break. I'll be right back. You're welcome back. Unfortunately, you can't see my smile, but I am smiling. Let's continue with the show. Now, the issue of unavailability or shortage of personal protective equipment for frontline health personnel continues to be a matter of concern in Ghana, despite the numerous donations in cash and PPEs to government, hospitals, and COVID management facilities. Today, community health nurses whose members are those affected by the problem have taken their destiny into their own hands. They're mobilizing funds to procure PPEs and other logistics for their members who are part of government enhanced surveillance and contact tracing team. Some of them were presented with hand sanitizers. It is the first of many items that the Community Health Nurses Association is procuring to support its members. Esther Banfo is here in the studio with me. She's president of the association. I'm going to find out from her first how working as a community health nurse has changed for you in the wake of COVID-19. You're welcome.
Thank you, my dear.
Right. So tell us, how has life changed?
Thank you. My regards to my people, the life has changed because we are not in the normal times. Now, fear is grasping everybody at the facility there. Because we used to meet a lot of clients, but we're so free, mingle with them, laugh with them, go closer, to the extent at times even hugging them. But now, it is world apart. The one you knew yesterday, laughing with, talking with, at times eating with, today has become somebody else. You don't know who you are approaching now. So things have turned in a different dimension for us.
Things have turned in a different direction. But one of the things that you need to be able to do your work as usual and not fear for your own self is PPEs.
Yeah.
What is the issue there, again, from your own words?
Thank you very much. You know, my people, basically, we are the grassroots. Talk of the CHIPS compound, the health centers, and then to the hospitals, even though we are everywhere. And now this COVID-19 issue deals with, do I say hygiene per se? So we need the hand washing, we're doing it though. But talk of the situation we find ourselves, we need gloves. The gun thermometer, hand sanitizers, the nose mask. For I think we are okay with that because since we are not at the treatment center, we don't need the gowns, whatever. But if we should get it, fine. But all these things are not there for my people to use. And the worry aspect of it is that now the disease is becoming a community spread. So it's a source of worry. My people are living in the community with the people. If anything at all, they will go to them before they are referred to the higher place. So before the person will leave the facility, whether the CHIPS compound, health center, or whatever, what happens there? So my people are at risk. They will leave there, go to their homes. They don't know what they are carrying to their houses. They'll go and meet with their family. And they pose a threat also to their family because their family too are exposed. So these PPEs are not there for my people to use. I remember, I think when things started, I think because we are preventive nurses, and our motto is prevention is our business. So all the time we put things down because most of the times we foresee unforeseen circumstances. So we always prepare ourselves in terms of prevention. That gets some people to have this sort of nose masks, and maybe sanitizer. It even became a national agenda. So if I understand
you, when this thing happened, I mean, because you are more preventive conscious, your members started buying some of these PPEs themselves.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And like the one we are using, we are not supposed to even use for the whole day. No, maybe when you close, it's disposable. Yeah. But because we are not having them, some will have to tend to wash them, iron them, and continue using, because you cannot even get to bed.
Ironing these? Are they ironing, washing and ironing these ones?
Some people do, because you don't have it.
It's going to tear apart if you put it in water.
It depends on the way you do it, not soaking it in the water. Okay. Yesterday I did one. Some are of good quality. Okay. Yet.
So how did you do it?
You just put it, you soak you put omo or maybe a soapy water, you dip it into it, you just shake it for some few minutes, and then you rinse it. You won't squeeze it. Then you pick it and then you rinse it, and then you dry it, and then you iron it, and you are there.
Really?
Yes.
So that's how some of your members are treating
some few. So
they can reuse them.
Yes, but now, you know, we have resorted to the local ones. Some seamstresses are sewing them at the community level, and that. So that is what we have now resorted to.
What I'm learning also is that you've decided to raise funds by yourself to procure these PPEs. Tell us about this drive.
Thank you very much. I think as leaders, we should always, and our members' welfare is a hallmark. If they are well fed, we also have our peace to operate. So I think we're thinking they'll be supplied with these PPEs. So we're waiting, promises were coming here and there. But we saw that it was all to no avail. So we decided, we pay dues as members. So we decided that if the money is sitting down, there is a proverb that says that you won't leave a club for the dog to bite you. So if we are having something small in our coffers, do we let the money sit down for our people to suffer before we go and take the money to go and treat them? And even the treatment, the chances are 50-50. So why don't we go in our coffers? It's their own money, our own money, and then help them out of it, at least to do some prevention. We need them alive to continue for us to work with them as members.
So you're using your welfare money to buy
Yes, it's our own use money that we used. Yes.
Okay, but you're also appealing to anybody who wants to support.
Exactly, philanthropists.
Okay, how can people support?
We have a national office here. We can leave our numbers.
Yes, please do.
And we can also write to them.
Okay.
020 78 80 707
707
024 63 84 964. Yes,
okay.
Please.
And people can get in touch with you and help you to get PPEs for your members. So your members are mainly, this is a national association, right?
Yes, please.
So your members are mainly all over the country?
All over the country, every corner.
In remote parts of the country?
The remotest, not even the remote, the remotest. Where you go, there is a hamlet, 1 or 2 people living there. You get community health nurse attending to those people there. So we are everywhere. As well as we rise even to the tertiary hospitals.
Okay, and you're looking to write to people, organizations that are willing to support. We have, this segment is for people like you, people who work with sick people or people who have to assess sick people. For us, those are our frontline workers. Anybody who's working with coronavirus patients, anybody that's out there working close to anything that exposes you to the virus is this segment is for you, essentially. So we're here and we'll be engaging you more as we go along, hopefully to help with the donation drive that you're looking to go on. But they're asking for you to help them. If you're at home, you're a business entity, you're an organization that wants to help, these are their numbers: 020-7880-707. That's 020-7880-707. You can also reach them on 0246-384964. That's 0246-384964. These are community health workers who don't have PPEs. They're having to wash and reuse something like what I'm wearing, which is supposed to be disposable. to protect themselves, which is obviously no good. You want to reach out to them, support them. Do you have any final words as we wrap up,
Yes,
Ms.
I want to make a plea. I think to the Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, and the government as a whole, I think it is time the nation will have, or it's a must, have a proper healthcare system that will be able to respond to national emergencies. Because I think when this thing started, if there were to be such a unit, I think they would have foresaw what will come, so that they'll get themselves prepared. And then these PPEs and what have you wouldn't have been a problem. So I'm appealing to the government to, I think, look at that one too. And then there again, there are a lot of health institutions. I think they should also inculcate in the programs or the curricula emergency preparedness and response in public health, in the training institutions, and then at the university level, so that when things of this nature happens, it will go a long way to help our mother Ghana.
Thank you very much, Ms. Banfo, for coming through. Like I said, every now and then we can be engaging you and some of your health workers who are the nurses who are in the remote parts of the country, to talk to them for their experiences. We share their experiences on the ground and how they're doing as well. I've been talking to Esther Banfo. Esther is the president of the Association of Community Health Nurses. The Association of
Community Health Nurses Association
Community
Ghana.
Health Nurses Association Ghana.
Yes,
Thank you for that. Community Health Nurses Association of Ghana.
Yes.
You want to reach out to them, help them. They need PPEs, and they're also calling on governments to help them with some of the PPEs that have been received through donations. Thank you very much for coming. Well, that has been your Frontline for today. You're welcome back to the show. We're continuing away from Frontline. We're looking at the global updates and taking a look at what's happening. More than 2 million cases recorded worldwide and thousands of people have died. Let's go to DW, our partners DW in Germany, from where Thomas Sparrow, political correspondent, joins us with the details. We do know, Thomas, it's good to have you. We do know the last time we spoke to you that the EU was planning, was trying to put together a sort of response, a unionized response. We know that they've reached some sort of agreements. Give us an update on that.
That is true, Gifty. They did reach an agreement a few days ago. It was a very difficult agreement because there were different views depending on the countries that you spoke to. Some preferred an idea of sort of mutualized debt. Others thought that would not be the case, that other methods should be put in practice to try and help countries. In the end, they did come to an agreement, the different EU finance ministers, to put a package that will help countries that are particularly affected by the coronavirus crisis, and this will go hand in hand with some of the measures that have been put in place by the countries themselves at a national or a local level. So as we also spoke on this program a few weeks ago, Germany, for example, has put its own rescue package, a very big package indeed, to try and help businesses that are particularly affected by the coronavirus, not only very big conglomerates, but also smaller businesses as well, or even independent business people. So you can clearly see that there are different levels in which there is help coming for people who are particularly affected on the national level, on the local level, and also finally at a European level as well. But again, that European level discussion, it was something that was very difficult, very tense. There were discussions that lasted for many hours, and that in the end, well, they did manage to come to an important agreement, because what officials had said time and time again is that it's particularly in time of crisis when the European Union has to show that it can work together to deal with the issues that affect its citizens the most. And it does seem that, at least from a start, from that perspective, this agreement does respond to that interest to try and have a shared approach to the coronavirus, at least when it comes to the European perspective.
Oh, you say that there has been some sort of agreement among the EU states. We do know that not all of the EU states are as affected by like the other. So if you take, for instance, Italy has a harder hit. Germany, of course, also comes a bit after Italy and Spain, for example. So how was this arrangement done so that it actually tackles those who have the biggest of problems? Is that information that's available to us?
Gifty, and that is precisely the issue that is here at stake, because on the one hand you have countries in Europe that are affected differently. You have countries like Spain or like Italy that have health systems that are tested to their limits. You have a larger death rate there, for example, than in Germany. You have other countries that are obviously affected, but not as affected as, for example, Spain or France or Italy or Germany. Even Germany comes number 5 in the world with the most number of cases. But again, and we've discussed it here as well, Germany has a very different death rate compared to the other countries. So this was the big challenge here, how to make sure that you have very different situations in different countries, but that you can still have a package put in place that could then be in a way distributed to the countries that are mostly affected, and specifically also to the areas where those countries need. And by the way, that is something that also comes hand in hand with what we're discussing here in Germany and in Europe now, and that has to do with how to ease restrictions. And it's the same situation time and time again, because you have countries in a very different situation when it comes to the number of infected people that are taking measures that are different to the ones that have been taken by other countries. So for example, schools have restarted in Denmark. Schools will only restart in Germany step by step at the beginning of May. Austria has already announced some measures. Czech Republic has announced some measures, and what's coming from the EU is that countries should, at least also in this particular case, try and come together and find solutions. It's not only about each country on its own deciding how to move forward. It's now also a moment to try and find common approaches, not only when it comes to this rescue package, but also when it comes to how to ease some of those restrictions when the time comes.
And you indicated also earlier that they're looking to, in fact, I'm just reading something that you sent us that says that the Interior Minister had indicated that they're looking to ease these restrictions and allow religious meetings, for example, to happen. Give us a wrap on that, because right behind you, I still see people moving, and you've explained that already before, but certainly talk to us about the Interior Minister's announcement.
That's correct. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel on Wednesday met with the regional leaders here in the country to discuss how to move forward, and what they decided were first very cautious steps to ease restrictions here in Germany. So for example, as of next week, some shops, in particular small and medium-sized shops that are under 800 square meters, will be allowed to open. Then at the beginning of May, from the 4th of May, schools will be able to reopen also step by step, although restaurants, clubs, bars, museums and so on are still banned. Public gatherings, very big, massive gatherings are banned until the end of August, and religious gatherings as well are still not allowed. And in this particular case, the German Interior Ministry has been meeting with different religious groups to try and see exactly how they could reopen those gatherings, what kind of measures have to be taken, hygiene measures, social distancing measures, because there is an understanding that in particular when it comes to these very difficult times, religious gatherings play a very important role in trying to help people. So that's why there was this meeting. There is still not a concrete date when religious gatherings will be allowed here in Germany, but there is at least this understanding that they have to reopen gradually, and that they have to reopen gradually once the hygiene measures and the social distancing measures have been found. So Germany is moving step by step, very cautiously, because the government has indeed said that the social distancing measures have been working, but that is a fragile and partial success. And that's why German authorities, but also Germans in general, still have to keep those social distancing measures in place. They will continue at least until the 3rd of May.
Certainly, we'll be here to see how that goes, but we'll also be coming to you next week, Thomas, for more updates from there. Thank you very much. Thomas Sparrow joins us from home, from where he's broadcasting and bringing us updates on what's happening in Germany. Speaking of easing the restrictions and about social distancing that's so difficult to practice, we here in Ghana have our own story to tell when it comes to social distancing. It's been very difficult. I was going to give you the update on the global updates, but right now I have to quickly take you to Parliament. It's been brewing with a lot of information, things that you should know. The latest being that the minority is calling on government to avoid delays in updating figures on coronavirus. They are demanding a timely 6-hour update, and they want governments to be more transparent in how the figures are churned out. The ranking member of the Health Committee, Kwabena Minta Akando, has been addressing the media in Parliament House. He says there are still complaints about inadequate PPEs. In fact, we just had that interview right here with community nurses who are saying they don't have PPEs. He's asking government to disclose how much PPEs it has imported beyond that's given by the JACMA and the Chinese government. Let's get to Parliament right now and speak to Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, Gifty.
Right, Joseph. A lot of things have been happening in Parliament today. It certainly tells on your face. Do give us an update on the demands being made by the minority as far as updating the coronavirus cases by government is concerned.
They are making a claim that they think to a certain extent government is deliberately hesitating in terms of detailing what exactly is going on and putting out the figures. And they've been specific that they say there's been instances when over a long duration the figures are not updated, and then all of a sudden the numbers are thrown in and the figures are huge. They say that that is out of place, and that their demand is that there should be a constant and an agreed on update when it comes to the cases, so that then any figures that come to the very central level, every 6 hours government goes ahead to put out those details and what exactly the figures are. They think that a transparent manner, as they're calling it, of churning out the figures will engender a lot more confidence in government's measures and government's approach when it comes to dealing with the problem, and ensure that ordinary citizens are very much updated. Again, they're saying that they are not seeing any firm commitment on the part of government itself, apart from what international donors have done to support the state of Ghana when it comes to dealing with the problem. They say they are in doubt as to whether government has brought in any protective equipment on its own, and when it comes to stuff like nose masks and also the other needed protective equipment and also materials for healthcare personnel. All that they know is that China and also the JACMA Foundation are the ones who've donated. They don't have specific figures on how much government has procured. They would want to get those details as well. And then, in fact, particularly on the floor of Parliament earlier in the day, the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, made a demand that they would want to hear from the health minister on a broad range of issues, including meningitis and also the COVID-19, as far as our government's efforts to contain it is concerned. So they've been raising those concerns at various media briefings and also on the floor of Parliament earlier today. Gifty.
This is not the only thing that has happened. We're hoping to get some responses, but let me, before I even ask my second question, ask whether there has been a response by the minority to the concerns being raised about the transparency and the timing for the updates on coronavirus cases, as well as the PPEs especially. Has the majority responded?
Not yet. We gather that apart from the MPs who are in the chamber, in fact, they are dealing with the pre-tertiary education bill at the moment as a way to buy time, because simultaneously the Finance Committee of Parliament is meeting to consider a 1 billion IMF rapid response facility that government is seeking in order to help cushion the economy in the light of the COVID-19 impact on the general economy of the Republic. And so the Finance Committee is meeting. The chairman of the Finance Committee and as well as the chairman of the Health Committee is also a member of the Finance Committee. So those deliberations are ongoing, and once there is space, we'll get responses to the concerns that the minority has raised.
We come to the approval of Deputy Minister for Health, Okoboy, Dr. Okoboy. Give us an update. How did it go?
So this afternoon, the chairman of the Appointment Committee of Parliament, Jose Usu, laid a report of the committee from the vetting they did on Wednesday before MPs for approval, and the House went ahead to approve it. And so Dr. Bernard Okoboy has now been approved as Deputy Minister for Health, pending his swearing in by the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And even as the House approved it, there were comments from both the majority and the minority wishing him well and making the point that he is coming into the space at a very crucial time in Ghana's history when the nation is dealing with the problem of COVID-19. And Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, the North Tongue MP, made the point that they are wishing him all the necessary goodwill in order to bring on board his expertise and his knowledge to help the nation deal with the issue having to do with COVID-19. There was a conversation reviewing some of the responses that he gave when he appeared before the Appointment Committee of Parliament, including his request that there should be a situation where issues of accountability are dealt with when COVID-19 has been defeated. And Inusaf Hussaini, who is the Tamale Central MP, in contributing to the conversation on the floor, made the point that the Deputy Minister should be pushing for accountability now as much as he is pushing for more efforts to deal with COVID-19. So after more than an hour deliberation on the committee's report, eventually the approval was given, and Speaker Professor Michael Quay congratulated Dr. Okoboy for his appointment as Deputy Minister for Health. He was in the chamber himself with all smiles, flanked by the Health Minister and other key officials, even as Parliament approved his nomination.
It must be. It looks like a smooth sail for him. Now, what a lot of Ghanaians are waiting is for his own contribution to our response to coronavirus. But Joseph, before I let you go, there's still a lot more interesting things that we can talk about. Politicization of the food being shared by the Gender and Social Protection Ministry is one of the big issues today that was discussed in Parliament.
Precisely. Not exactly in Parliament, except that it came up in the conversation on the floor of Parliament, even as MPs contributed to the agenda for the day, but a lot of it has played out right on the presence of Parliament. So I interviewed the Gender and Social Protection Minister, Madam Cynthia Morrison, earlier in the morning, and she was categorical in denying the claim that there's been situations where those who would want to get food have to show their party ID cards in order to get the food, as had been alleged by Dr. Zanetto Rawlings, who is the MP for Klotikole. And she made the point that when the ministry gets the food to the ground, it's handed over to the district assembly and also the National Disaster Management Organization for them to do the distribution. Politicians are not involved. And in fact, to quote her, she said that how can you fathom a situation where when food is being distributed and there is a lot of crowding and there are concerns about non-social distancing, there will be instances when anyone would demand a party card before handing over the food. But the minority MPs have also been addressing the media here in Parliament a while ago. About 10 of them have been taking turns to address the media on what they say is the situation in their constituencies, and claiming that the distribution is being politicized, led by the Aswansi MP, Muntaka Mubarak, who is the minority chief whip. He says a similar situation is happening in his constituency. Also, the MP for Obum Domyabra, that Sophia Kwaku, said that she's had to confront the district assembly officials over this, and that it's happening with people who are distributing the food being NPP chairpersons as well as the parliamentary candidates of the NPP in the area. The Ashaman constituency and Esnogbe is making a similar allegation. The Odododio MP, Neil Antivandapo, is making a similar claim. The Ayawaso North MP, Yusuf Jaja, is also backing the claim. And to crown the entire press conference, Dr. Zanetto Rawlings herself indicated that she stands by those allegations. And Muntaka Mubarak has also been reacting to what he says has been media attacks on Dr. Zanetto Rawlings for making the claim, citing comments by Paul Adumoche, which he says are in bad taste, and that they are petitioning the National Media Commission to take on Paul Adumoche for, in his words, virtually insulting Dr. Zanetto Rollins for raising these issues. And so those have been some of the concerns that the minority MPs are raising right here in Parliament, that they think the distribution of food is being used as a grand scheme by the NPP and their candidates to bolster their popularity in the various constituencies. And Muntaka Mubarak says some of the parliamentary candidates get to the constituencies and claim that the government food is food that they are bringing to the constituents just so they look good and prepare the ground for themselves going into the 2020 elections. And he says that is completely out of place.
Looks like the worst of the minority against that of the majority certainly will be on the ground to check on this. Joseph, finally, the Interior Minister has also been responding to some concerns by members of Parliament about police officers and other lockdown security agents who are not allowing them free passage.
And so the MP for Ho Central, Benjamin Kudo, made a claim on the floor of Parliament complaining to the Speaker that in his efforts to get to Parliament earlier today, his movements were restricted, and he had to be asked to return, and then he had to find alternative routes in order to get here because the security persons were refusing to permit him. He showed his ID card that he's an essential worker and reminded them that the president has exempted parliamentarians from the lockdown. But then he says that he was still prevented from getting to the House. And it wasn't just him, the likes of Nilanti Van der Poel, the MP for Dododio, and a number of other MPs raised similar concerns. And Ambrose Derry, who is the Minister for Interior, responded and said that this is something that is out of place and that he apologized to the MPs for the situation and that he would go on and sit down with the security agencies so that then they allow MPs to pass. But the Speaker, Professor Michael Kwei, took the issue seriously and directed that the Clerk of Parliament officially engages the Inspector General of Police and reminds him of the President's exemption that was given to MPs, that they can step out there and get to work without being affected by the restrictions as have come into force by the imposition of the restrictions law to help ensure that COVID-19 doesn't actually spread.
I did say that was the final question, Joseph, but I just remember that I haven't asked you about Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak's response, I think, to the bribery allegations by the U.S. SEC.
And so that's also another conversation that's been happening today. Not just him, Adam Mutawakilu as well, who was actually Vice Chair of the Energy Committee of Parliament back in 2015, has also been making the claim that he's been very much involved in the energy space. He remembers that particular deal as it unfolded up until it was approved by Parliament, the AXA energy deal, which we all know now that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is claiming that bribes to the tune of $600,000 was actually paid to members of Parliament, actually $60,000 to some members of Parliament and also other government officials. Muntaka Mubarak, who was a member of the Energy Committee then and is now the Minority Chief Whip, Adam Mutawakilu, are making the claim that they don't know this gentleman in question, Asante Bekwe, to have actually taken any money from him, and they are backing any possible move when it comes to a parliamentary inquiry. But that's not the only issue Adam Mutawakilu, who is the minority spokesperson on energy, has been addressing. He's also been demanding that you recall that yesterday the Energy Minister, Peter Amewu, did direct that the National Petroleum Authority withdraws the payments of the margin that had been put on LPG since 1st April in order to support the cylinder recirculation model. He directed yesterday that those continuous payments be withdrawn. Adam Mutawakilu is making an additional demand that consumers have been paying that money since April 1 without the necessary parliamentary approval, and that beyond just the Energy Minister directing a withdrawal of that particular levy, a refund should happen to consumers. Otherwise, then they, the minority, would be taking on on the various government agencies in that regard, and that government has no authority to spend the money that has accrued over the duration. So a lot has been happening here in Parliament. We are waiting at the moment for the report of the Finance Committee of Parliament on the $1 billion facility that government is getting from the IMF to cushion the economy against COVID-19. That Finance Committee meeting is happening, and that is likely to be done in the next few hours, after which the House will go ahead and approve that facility later tonight before the Speaker suspends sitting once again. Gifty.
Joseph, thank you so much for that update. Always detailed, always comprehensive. Thank you very much. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo there. He's our parliamentary affairs correspondent. They're joining us from Parliament. He's still standing by with more information from that Finance Committee meeting. Right now, the whole world is battling one enemy, but in spite of the numerous international organizations like the UN, the EU, and the AU, every nation appears to be doing their own thing, and there doesn't appear to be a unified approach to the fight against the novel coronavirus. The Commonwealth, however, appears to have an idea or two about how to change that. They're launching a campaign dubbed Africa United to try and bring together efforts from African countries who have been affected, countries together for a greater effect in terms of the response to the coronavirus. As you heard Thomas say, the EU has had to battle it through, but they've come to a certain agreement. AU is looking to do the same. So let's get on Skype and speak to John Appiah. He's a Commonwealth representative for Africa. He's joining us from London with fresh perspective on the fight against COVID-19. Mr. Appiah, thanks for your time this afternoon. Now, let's look a bit more into the Commonwealth response to COVID-19. I've just spoken to one of our colleagues who joined us from Berlin, talked to us about the EU response, which has been pretty unified. They've had a lot of challenges, a lot of disagreements, a lot of misunderstandings, but they have come to a certain level of agreement. Tell us about this response by the AU.
Hello, thank you for having me. Can you hear me very well?
I do hear you. Please go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. I think, as you've seen just in the video that we've done, our time is about staying united. And like you said, I've been watching for the past minutes and listening to what you've been saying. There's a lot of good that is happening from the coronavirus as well. A lot of people have been dying. You see that the messages on TV, you hear it on radio, it's all about the deaths and all about the bad sides of COVID-19, which is something that is very true and very real. But what we're trying to do at the Commonwealth Office is to show that despite all these things going on, let's try and stay united, to fight together, to pool our resources together. People are helping communities all over the world. People are donating money. And for us, the message is about hope. And through difficult times, realizing that we can find strength in one another. And for us, that's the entire Commonwealth message, which comes down to what the Commonwealth actually stands for. It's about the wealth that we have in what we have in common. And that is our message.
Health Secretariat is looking to engage, the leadership, so to speak, of Africa, so we can harmonize our response whilst we look at the positive side. Because even if just one country decides to focus on the positive side and it doesn't spread across, we probably won't achieve what your bigger vision, your bigger picture, as you see it, is. Are you engaging at this point?
Oh, 100%. I think the way the Commonwealth has always worked is that we work a lot behind the scenes, and we're not too loud, but we really set a lot of the foundations with our member countries. I think for Africa, the Commonwealth countries in Africa, we're fortunate that being behind the curve, usually we're behind the curve. And this time it's really helped us to be able to learn from mistakes that other countries have made. So in the USA, in the EU, we've seen a lot of the mistakes that have been made. And I think in African countries, a lot of us went on lockdown much earlier. Ghana, for example, closes borders much earlier than other countries. So I think we've been able to learn a lot from it. We've set up something called the Coronavirus Tracker Resource Center, and that is basically helping our member countries and governments to be able to track what is happening in each country and to track the measures that have worked and those that haven't worked, and building an evidence-based platform that is free to use. So we've engaged Ghana, we've engaged Nigeria, Zambia, Kenya, we've engaged all the African countries, and we're working together to be able to find remedies that actually solve this problem.
John, I'd like to say a very big thanks for joining us today. Now that you're engaging, I think that subsequently we can reach out to you and find out what the response has been and what the follow-up should be.
And I'd love you all to follow our campaign as well, which we launched today. From Monday, we're going to have a challenge that goes on, and we have great partners. We have Auspex, we have Luca Health, we have Premier Health Insurance, we have UMP, we have lots of companies in Ghana, across Africa, who are ready to stay united and help us to fight this disease. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming on the show as well. John Appiah there, he speaks for the Commonwealth Secretariat Africa, talking about how we can harmonize our response as Africans to coronavirus, learning from mistakes and from the, well, success of other countries who have also responded. Now we can hear from the WHO's Regional Director in Africa, Dr. Matshidiso Moeti, about the latest status in Africa. She says there has been a sharp rise in cases in the past week. There have been almost 1,000 deaths and more than 18,000 infections across Africa so far. Although these rates are far lower than those seen in parts of Europe and the United States, the WHO says the virus appears to be spreading away from African capitals. It also highlighted that the continent does not have enough ventilators to deal with the pandemic. So we hopefully should be praying never to get there. We can listen to her now.
So what is the situation currently in Africa now? We have now had reported over 17,000 cases, and we know that around 900 people have lost their lives due to COVID-19. We are concerned that the virus continues to spread geographically within countries, and the numbers continue to increase every day. We have countries like South Africa, Algeria, and Cameroon, which now account for around half of the confirmed cases. So the spread continues, particularly in Algeria and Cameroon. And we also have a number of countries like Burkina Faso, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Algeria, where the case fatality rate is rather high. So we would like to help those countries find out what is happening in terms of case management, caring for people, so that the quality of care can be improved and the numbers and proportion of those who are dying can be decreased. A number of African countries in the last week have seen a rather rapid increase in their case numbers. This is countries like Niger, Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, and Cameroon. And this is just a reminder of the importance of continuing to implement the public health measures that we have now defined several times over and over again. Testing people, and we recognize that testing has become a challenge now because of the availability of test kits, contact tracing, and assuring effective quarantining of those who are infected, both the cases and those who are potentially infected, the contacts. This is absolutely important. We know that countries are putting in place measures for physical distancing and have observed that in some of our contexts in African countries, this is very difficult to enforce in all the contexts where people are living, as we've said before, in very crowded conditions. But I really like to emphasize the implementation of these measures for public health, and to also say we need to continue to strive to engage people at the grassroots level so that they understand what is the risk and they are able to figure out how they can best protect themselves and their families and the society at large based on the limitations and the challenges that they face in their families and their communities. I'm very pleased in relation to the challenges of testing to say that we've started to work with the World Food Programme, the government of Ethiopia and the African Union to distribute some supplies, including personal protective equipment for healthcare workers and some test kits which are a combination of what WHO has procured at the global level and also another donation from the Jack Ma Foundation. So we are very appreciative of these contributions. Just to conclude, we understand very well that the impact in Africa will be very severe. We still have 14 African countries that have reported fewer than 20 cases. And I'd like to very much encourage that we seize this opportunity to contain and limit the spread out of the learnings that are occurring every day from the experiences of countries with more advanced forms of the pandemic.
The opportunity to learn from the mistakes of others for those 14 African countries especially. She has also been responding to the funding gap in Africa and the United States withdrawal or announced withdrawal of funds to the WHO as President Donald Trump did. Dr. Matshidiso Moeti says she's hoping that the US will reconsider that decision.
About $300 million. So in sub-Saharan Africa, in the African region, we have 47 countries, and each of the country offices has developed a plan of how they're going to work with the government locally. And then we have a regional office team that's working on this. And overall, we will be needing about $300 million for about 6 months in order to support what countries are doing. So this has been, if you like, uploaded into the global WHO budget, and our colleagues are working at the global level then with different partners, donors, to see what are the resources coming in. I think more broadly, of course, WHO is a member state organization, and the United States is the #1 contributor to our budget. So for the last biennium, for example, we had a contribution in voluntary contributions, voluntary funds targeted to different program areas of about $151 million from the US. And we've already received for this biennium, which is starting this year, almost $50 million from the United States. So the impact potentially of this decision will be quite significant on areas such as polio eradication. We're on the way to having a declaration of certification of polio being eradicated from Africa. The US is one of the biggest supporters of that, as well as other priority programs that address communicable diseases such as HIV, malaria, and work on strengthening our health systems. So this I can describe as the extent of US contribution and the potential impact of this decision, which we are very much hoping will be rethought, because the US government is an important partner, not only in financial terms, but also it's an important strategic partner. We work with many of the technical institutions in the US. They're important players in WHO's policy making, strategy making, and we value the relationship with the United States.
Dr. Moeti there. Now, Kenya's health minister has confirmed 12 new cases of coronavirus in the country. 5 of them involving hotel workers. Travelers who arrived into the country days before a ban on international flights were quarantined in various hotels in the capital, Nairobi. Total number of confirmed cases in the country now stands at 246. Connecting with Winnie Kamau, we tried to reach her earlier. Winnie Kamau is a freelance data journalist in Nairobi. Hello, Winnie.
Hey, hi, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry, we lost you on Skype. Let's do this via phone and see how it goes. So Kenya now has 246 cases, which is like half, almost half of what we have here in Ghana. But we told that some of these people that had it, the latest 12, had it from, they are hotel workers. Give us a bit more on that.
So the latest report, we have 12 additional cases today, bringing the total to 246 cases. And 5 of them were hotel workers, which is really concerning because, as you know, the situation in Kenya is not like Ghana or like in that area where we have a total lockdown. We have a secession. So what we have is that people can't come into the city, and we also have a curfew, which is a dusk to dawn curfew. That means from 7 p.m., no one is allowed to get out of their house until 5 in the morning. So, I mean, business is going on as usual, so that is a big concern. If the hotel workers have it, And most probably they came into contact with people who were just coming in and getting out. Then I guess the government will have to reconsider their position, because the country, many of the Kenyans have been asking for a lockdown. I guess there was that excitement, but the government has put into consideration that we as a country can be able to afford a lockdown, especially in the city, because most of us, or most Kenyans, live from hand to mouth and live on less than $1 a day or $2 a day. So it's impossible for Kenyans having a total lockdown. So I guess that puts the government in an awkward position on what else to do so that they can stop and prevent the spread of the virus.
Now, with 246 cases, Kenya is on the total lockdown with a curfew. I mean, here in Ghana, we have over 400 cases, but we're not in a total lockdown, not a complete, not all the regions are in lockdown. How is the police or the army, whoever is enforcing the lockdown, able to deal with the situation? Have there been any excesses? Because there are reports of that in Nigeria. Here in Ghana, we've had our own excesses. In Kenya, is that the situation?
So in Kenya right now, when we started off the curfew, that is our small lockdown, there was excesses, and even when people went on social media, and there was a big uproar on social media. So the policemen, actually there are several policemen who've been indicted because of those excesses, and so that has helped reduce the numbers. Although we still have, currently 19 people have been killed because of police excesses, which is more than the number of guys who have died of coronavirus in Kenya, because we have 11 people. We've reported 11 deaths, but so far 19 people have already lost their lives because of police excesses. But that is being looked into with even the police bosses going out into the counties where they've experienced these excesses and trying to give on it out with the citizens. But it's not easy, I must say, because people have to kind of hurry up so that they can beat up the curfew time, the dusk-to-dawn curfew time, and we are seeing a response of the police in a different way. And we are hoping that things will change, that if the government decides to go another way, then there will be enough for us. But there are places where there is no that stringent measure, because especially in the slums, it's not easy to enforce those things. Yes.
It'll be interesting to find out. We have our own story here from the slums and what slum dwellers are doing and what their problems are. It'll be interesting to find out what the situation there is in Kenya. Thank you so much, Winnie, for joining us. Winnie Kamal, she's a freelance journalist in Nairobi, joined us all the way from there with the details as well. Let's go to Nigeria, where security forces enforcing the lockdown in parts of that country we're told, killed more people than coronavirus itself. A local rights group is making that allegation. Evidence of the killings comes from members of the public who rang their hotline or sent in videos. The National Human Rights Commission is adding that detail. It also says that law enforcers have killed 18 people in Nigeria since the lockdowns. Let's go right now to Nigeria. Kayla Megwa works with Channels, our partners, and she joins us live from Nigeria. Hello, Kayla.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm sure that you're doing well as well. And let us just start with the details from that NGO that's alleging that police or security forces in Nigeria have killed many more people than coronavirus itself has.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
And
absolutely true. And the National Human Rights Commission has been speaking up about the situation. So something that expected was going to happen. Maybe at times we don't really understand a lot of what's going on, but some security agents to actually protocol for times like this, where important thing. Unfortunately, your figure is actually correct. What is the death from security?
But Kayla, what sort of evidence, apart from the videos, for example, that this organization gets from the public, are they putting forward?
When you say they putting forward, you mean the National Human Rights Commission or
the NGOs that says they received videos from people?
Yeah, well, the NGOs are not just working on just the videos that they got. Those videos were just there's an active investigation going on right now.
Oh.
And the National Human Rights Commission has actually spoken up about this. More people dead. I was, Mr. Tony Ojukwu is his name. I was speaking with him recently, and he actually confirmed, he said this has been going on. It was, first of all, human rights abuses going on. And, you know, the Human Rights Commission spoke up against that, only for us to now have the evidence of people being killed by security agents. But, you know, it's still, this is still in the investigation period. So they're still trying to find out what led to what. We saw a situation in Anambra State. We actually covered that in the news. We also saw one somewhere in the Niger Delta. So these are situations that are still being investigated, but, you know, the reports have been coming in.
Well, we'll see how the investigations go. But apart from that, is there any who is doing this investigation apart from the commission? Are the security agencies themselves? And I'm saying this because here in Ghana, when similar issues came up, the military or the army said it was doing its own investigation as well. So are there parallel investigations ongoing, or is this just the business of the commission?
No, it's not just the commission, it's everyone. It's a joint effort. The police is also doing their own investigations, you know, because to get this sorted out has to be something everybody's a part of. No one wants anyone to die. No one condones any killings. So yes, security agencies are also carrying out their own investigation. And they say when this investigation is done, that those who are found culpable will be punished. So we're waiting to see how that works out.
Interesting. Let's look at the coronavirus cases itself. Do you have any updates to share with us, Kayla?
Oh yeah, the number keeps rising, unfortunately. 442 as at 11 hours ago. And then we have a lot of people who have been discharged, by the way. So we have 442 cases right now. Abuja, Lagos, Kano, and Osun are the places with the most number of cases of coronavirus. And then, of course, we have a lot of people who have been discharged. 152 people have been discharged so far. And then we have 13 people who have died, unfortunately, from the disease. So that is the update right now from Nigeria.
Doing any comparison, we're way ahead of you. 442, we are at 641 at the moment. We're learning that 8 people, there's a possibility of also of one more. So about 9 people have died here, and that's how our situation compares to you. But so far, how has the lockdown in Nigeria, for example, gone? Nigeria is a big country with so many people. Here in Ghana, we're managing. It's not been easy for the security forces. Generally, how are people reacting and taking in this lockdown? What kind of conversations are going on?
It hasn't been easy. I do have to tell you that. I know that in Ghana, you know, you're probably not having to deal with the kind of population that we're dealing with here in Nigeria, but it is very difficult for a lot of people to obey the sit-at-home order. Remember, we also have a lot of people who are poor, who depend on their daily activities to feed. So a lot of them still feel the need to go out and do one thing or the other. Now, but there are a lot of things going on, all right? So while people are having a difficulty with the testing, with the lockdown, there's something called community testing, which has started. So what's happened is the Nigerian Center for Disease Control has started doing testing for coronavirus in communities. And, you know, like in the nation's capital, for instance, the suburbs, one of the places, the suburbs of the nation's capital have a lot of people, very densely populated, you know, and some of the cases of coronavirus that they're dealing with right now didn't have any links with people who had traveled out of the country. Most of it were just people who are in communities. So they start, because if these densely populated communities become infected, then we might have a situation that we cannot handle. So community testing has started. The lockdown has gone tighter. In the nation's capital, for instance, you can only go to the market twice a week now, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And then anytime after that, they turn people around and try to get them to stay at home. The reason, and I try to reiterate this as much as possible, the reason for the lockdown is so that people who have this disease will start to show symptoms and will have no choice but to go to the hospital. So that is what it's about. And I think many people are coming to terms with that. It's a little difficult for people, especially Nigerians who are used to doing what they want to do whenever they want to do it. It's a little difficult for a lot of people. People are calling out for palliatives. The state governments are trying to handle that. State governments are coming up with one thing or the other to help people who are staying at home at this time. In the nation's capital, we're seeing that palliatives are being distributed in many communities. Some people who have been part of the National Social Register, which is the register of the poorest of the poor in Nigeria, they've actually decided to give them 4 months. They give them 5,000 naira every month. They decided to give them 20,000 naira at a go. That way they can take care of themselves.
Looks like I lost Kayla there, but very interesting information. He says that Nigeria actually has a register of the poor where they have people listed as the poorest of the poor, and they get 5,000 naira. Those people are getting 20,000 naira because of the situation. We do have let's wrap up that conversation with her. Kayla, I was very much interested in the register of the poor.
Oh yeah, the National Social Register. It's a very big deal. It was done in 2015. It was done alongside the IMF. So it was the IMF that helped us come up with that register as a country. And basically, what they did was look for people who are in the worst situations in the country. They started giving them incentives for their business. We're talking maybe people who sell akara on the street, bean cakes on the streets, people who, depend on their daily activities to survive. So a lot of those people have been a part of this National Social Register for years. And like I said earlier, they have been giving them 5,000 naira every single month so they can help grow their businesses, they can take care of themselves. Now with the coronavirus ravaging the country, they cannot go outside right now to carry out their businesses as they normally would. So what they've done is take that National Social Register, give them 4 months of the money together. So instead of 5,000 naira, they got 20,000 naira. Now here's what's happened. After that, a lot of people in the country were figured, I want to be a part of this. I don't have any money. I'm not able to take care of myself. So what President Muhammadu Buhari has done since that complaint is that he decided to expand the National Social Register by 1 million people. So they're going to be adding people who are not necessarily the poorest of the poor, but who are not well off, who are not able to take care of themselves at this time. So they're expanding that register by 1 million people. And then, of course, they'll be giving them palliatives. And it will continue. This is an ongoing process. We're just seeing the beginnings of this. We don't know where it's going to end. But what is being done right now is all I can tell you. Expanding that National Social Register by 1 million people and making sure that they get the palliatives that they need for this particular point in time. And that is in addition to the fact that state governments are doing what they can to take care of people, who are suffering at this time. So that's where we are on that.
We're doing so too in Ghana, but it's come up with, it's had its own issues, including politicization or accusations and allegations of politicization. I don't know if there's anything going on like that, but perhaps next time when we come to you, Kayla, we'll be able to tease out all of those details. Thank you so much for this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
We've been speaking to Kayla. Kayla Megwa is an editor with Channels TV, our partners in Nigeria. We'll go back to Kenya, where now the Chinese government is currently investigating allegations of inhumane treatment being meted out to African nationals, including Ghanaians. That's according to Chinese ambassador to Ghana, Shi Ting-Wang. There's been global concerns over forceful evictions allegedly targeted at Africans in China over the past few days. Ambassador Wang said these were very serious allegations and not a matter his home government takes lightly. He was speaking at a short donation ceremony at the Chief Imam's residence today.
Believed that you also, everybody concerned about some African citizens in Guangdong province. The Chinese government attaches great importance to this situation and carry out investigation at its earliest time. Actually, as the pandemic spreads all over the world, there is also a mounting pressure to prevent its resurgence in China, especially for Guangdong province, a major province of opening up in China. This province has comprehensively upgraded its epidemic prevention measures. During this process, some misunderstandings may have occurred. At present, isolated phenomena and occasional cases caused by misunderstanding has properly resolved. This province is working promptly to improve their working method, including but not limited to taking health management measures without differentiation, lifting the health management to Africans except confirmed cases and close contacts, including suspected cases. Unfortunately, some media, especially the social media, are exaggerating the situation, spreading the modified video, which has gone far beyond its original appearance. It is important to note that China has upholding the position and policy that all foreigners are treated equally. In the meantime, China makes a solemn commitment that no one would be discriminated in the process. I want to emphasize that in the battle with the COVID-19 pandemic, China treats African people in China as our own people, and we treat African students in China as our own children. We prioritize the safety of more than 3,000 African students in Hubei province during the high peak of the pandemic.
The Chinese embassy has also re-emphasized its willingness to contribute more aid towards the fight against COVID-19 in Ghana. The embassy donated a number of items to the National Chief Imam Sheikh Nuhu Shaributu's residence here in Accra. Here is the ambassador again, Shi Ting-Wang.
China local authorities and companies are also providing assistance to Africa in various ways. A few weeks ago, Mr. Jack Ma, that famous Chinese entrepreneur, donated medical supplies to 54 African countries in Africa. A few days ago, I talked to Mr. Jack Ma. Mr. Jack Ma is my good friend. And we talked over the phone, and I asked him to make more donations to Africa, and he agreed. He told me that the second batch of donation will come very soon.
Ambassador Shi Ting-Wang, on behalf of the National Chief Imam, spokesperson Sheikh Armiel Shaibu, expressed gratitude, pledging equitable distribution of the items to the poor.
On my own behalf and on behalf of the eminent National Chief Imam, I want to express our deepest appreciation and profound thanks to the ambassador of the Republic of China in Ghana, and indeed all the Chinese people here in the country, for this special gesture. Repeating the Chief Imam's words of appreciation, he says that this donation has come at the right time, most opportune time. Ramadan is fast approaching, where most vulnerable members of the Muslim community will need support in terms of resources to help them do their fasting. But even more importantly is the situation we find ourselves in, and that is the lockdown, which is restricting movement of all people of the country from place to place. What this means is that many people are unable now to move out and seek their daily earnings to be able to provide for themselves. This is the context within which this donation has become so critical and so important.
Now, since the outbreak of COVID-19, individuals and corporate organizations continue to make significant contributions to fight to stop the spread of the virus. Beverage manufacturer Casapreco Company Limited has donated items to the tune of 40,000 cedis to the Menchia Palace. This is to complement efforts of Asantehene Otumfuo II to provide support to the poor and vulnerable people in lockdown areas in the Kumasi metropolis. More in this report.
The 40,000 worth donation, according to Ni Ahwete Akwete Kujo, the Territory Department Officer for Kasapreko. The donation is part of their corporate social responsibility aimed at supporting the vulnerable affected by the lockdown. The items donated to the Mensha Palace included assorted drinks, water, and hand sanitizers.
Preko, as a company, is not oblivious of the COVID-19 pandemic. And in a bid to help eradicate this, Kasapreko stopped some of its lines to come out with hand sanitizers. And you know the WHO recommendations, washing of hands under running water and taking our personal hygiene serious would help in a long way to eradicate the pandemic. So this is a little gesture.
Kasapreko Company Limited is one of the few indigenous companies to produce hand sanitizers in the country after the price of the product skyrocketed when the first few cases of COVID-19 was reported. Before the donation to the Mensha Palace, the company had already presented quantities of hand sanitizers to the Information Ministry, 37 Military Hospital, and the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra. Receiving the items on behalf of the Mensha Palace, Bafo Yabwatin Domina Sehene expressed gratitude to the company for their kind gesture. He said it will go a long way to help the poor in the locked down communities.
And the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Abuaji, says Ghana must plan towards any future epidemic. Speaking during a donation exercise, Dr. Abuaji said a lot of these donations can be saved for the future if the country is faced with another epidemic. There is more in this report.
As the number of confirmed coronavirus cases increases steadily both in Ghana and elsewhere, corporate organizations and individuals are donating generously towards the fight against the spread of the disease. Allianz Life Insurance Company Limited and Unity Link Financial Services Friday donated PPEs and 200,000 Ghana cedis to the Ghana Health Service. Head of Business Development at Allianz Life Insurance, William Ano-Edu, says his outfit sees the need to give to the needy.
You see, as a corporate organization like that of ours, everybody is not working at the moment. And it is only wise and significant that we put all hands on deck in the fight against COVID-19. When the economy bounces back and every company and every business is thriving, there will be employment. The necessary sales and the monies we've been looking for all this while will be coming. But right now that we are all locked down, everybody is sitting at home doing nothing. If you keep your little resources to yourself, then what are you doing? You need to share.
Dr. Patrick Abuaji, receiving the items on behalf of the Ghana Health Service, said the items had come at a time when the country continues to grapple with protective equipment.
Corporate Ghana, I think this is a national exercise, and we are mobilized all support across Ghana and the world as we respond. Nobody planned for this disease, and so definitely when you have it, you need to go outside your normal budgets, as you can see. And Corporate Ghana has been very helpful, not only in Accra, in all sectors at the central level, and we believe that further support will help us not only in this crisis, but even post this crisis. The little dysfunction that this may create means that we need more resources to be able to bring the system back to.
Unity Link Financial Services donated 200,000 Ghana cedis, hand sanitizers and some PPEs to the health service.
The group presidents and support from the Unity Link group, being United Kingdom, Unity Link UK, Unity Amsterdam or Holland, and then Family Link USA. We have these items that we want to donate to the Ghana Health Services. So we have special COVID-19 PPE kits. We have N95, FFP2, we have FFP1, we have hand gloves, we have face goggles, we have overalls, we have hand sanitizers, we have detergent, we have Veronica buckets, and then we have disposable hand tissues. which will be sent to Rage Hospital, Gais, Begro, Koforidua, Wale, Kentampo, Kumasi South Hospital. And additionally, we'll be sending some Veronica buckets, sanitizers, and hand gloves to Seche Dumasi Polyclinic in the Ashanti region.
Metropolitan Archbishop of Accra, Most Reverend John Bonaventure Kofi, is urging Christians to have faith in the Lord, especially in these troubling times. He wants Christians to continue praying, wash their hands regularly, and stick to the social distancing rules, and that life after the end of COVID-19 virus, he says, will be good. Ghana, like many other countries, is battling the fast-spreading disease. Businessman and philanthropist Ernest Domi was accompanied by the Metropolitan Archbishop to donate some items, including PPEs, to the Denton police station. We'll hear from the religious leader shortly. First, here is the businessman.
I'm only here to play my social responsibility with my church and Accra Diocese as a whole, and with the GJ president, who is also living in the community, who is here with us. That, well, we cannot do all, but we came together as a community so that we can also fight the cause that we are all fighting for, to help the Adenta police not do all. So we are only here to also do our part in the community that we live, that they protect us. So I brought them drinks, soft drinks, water, hand wash soap, disinfectant, and N95 face mask, so they can use as logistics to protect us. Thank you very much.
People are supporting the government in all ways. So if he's also bringing this one to our personnel and the people in the cell, we don't have anything to say. What to say is thanks to him and thanks be to God. God bless us all.
We can now listen to Metropolitan Archbishop of Accra, Most Reverend John Bonaventure Kofi.
This pandemic that has affected the whole of humanity. And so it's a very difficult situation for all of us to go through this period of the coronavirus. As we have heard, at the moment, there's no vaccine for sin. And so the only thing is to make sure that you don't contract this virus. And so, and especially when you talk about Ghana, the health delivery system in Ghana is not yet at that stage to support this. So I would want to emphasize that the preventive measures that government has put in place, every citizen must adhere to these preventive measures. But it's better to prevent it than to say we are going to cure it, because it's very difficult for everybody. Yeah. And so the church, what the church says is that everybody must recognize that the government, the protocols put down by the government are there to help the Ghanaian stay alive, stay healthy. And so I want to emphasize that let us all be obedient, observing these measures. Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are distressed right now because they've had to stay at home, not because they want to, but because they've been forced. Any words of encouragement for some of our people locked up in their homes and can't come out? They can't congregate as families, friends, as we are used to as a people.
Yeah. In actual fact, I think, as I mentioned, it is important for all of us to adhere to these measures. And the major thing is to stay at home. And so those, all of us are locked at home. Why? Because to go out, you never know where you're going to contract this, virus. And so it's better for us to stay at home. And so those who are held at home, let them know that it's just a measure at the moment. It's not going to be forever. So the more we obey this, the better for us. And so I want to say, don't think that you have been locked in your house, you can't do what you want to do. Don't think that. The best thing is that we all remain supportive of one another. Because if I stay at home, you stay at home, social distancing, as we talk about, if I do it, I do it not just for myself, but also for you. If you did not just for yourself, but also for me. So it's something we owe this responsibility to one another. Yeah.
What do you say to those who say this is a curse from God?
Yes, I would want us to not use that language. Why? God does not curse us. It's not the nature of God to curse human beings. God wants our good. When he created the heavens and the earth, if you read Genesis, it says everything he created, he found that it was good.
A citizen without water who called the National COVID-19 call center was surprised to learn about the man on the other end of the line, the Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. The caller from Kaswa had no water and called the center for help, but the recipient turned out to be his Vice President.
This is the National Information Contact Center. You are speaking to Mahmoud Bawumia. How can I help you? Yes, yes. Kaswa. And what's your name? Anotown. Enomeri area. Okay. Yes. So how can I help you? Yes. Okay. Okay. You don't have water. This is in Kaswa, Enomeri area. Okay. Okay. There's no water. Bojasi Road. Okay. Okay. We will look to dealing with this. Do you know who you're speaking to? Oh, okay. You're speaking to Mahmoud Bawumia, the Vice President. The Vice President. Yeah, you don't believe it. Yes, that's me. I think she's confused. You need water. Okay. We will Enomeri area, right? Anotown in Kaswa. You have 2 10,000-liter tanks. Okay. So your message to the water suppliers, and I'm sure you will see them soon. Keep here. Squatting. Assemblyman is squatting. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. God bless you. Thank you. You're welcome. You are blessed, huh? Okay. Thank you.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia there. Keep calling that line if you have any issues as far as COVID-19 is concerned. And thank you so much for all of you who sent in your messages. You can also send your messages on our Facebook and our Twitter and our Instagram platforms. Do get interactive with us so we can serve you better. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. It's always a pleasure coming your way. Many thanks. Do stay with us.